had my radio on. But I want you to take your Bibles and I want you to turn to Genesis 22, verses 1 through 19. Now, I want you to, this is a familiar story for many of you. It's Abram making an agreement with God, covenant. And this coming week on my daily devotions, I'll be doing a series on covenant. But God made a covenant with Abraham many years before this chapter to take place. And he promised him that his seed would be as great as the stars, that they would go into captivity for 400 years and then they would come out and he would bless them and they would become a great nation. And Abram says to God, "But God, I don't have any children. All I have is the slave I bought in Damascus, Eliezer, and right now he's the heir apparent." And God said to him, "No, you're going to have a son." And if you remember the story, he tells Abraham, and of course Sarah's listening, and he said, "I'll come back in a year's time and I'll see that baby." And Sarah laughed so hard because she was approaching 90 and Abram was approaching 100. And she in her reality was saying, "Man, this can't happen." and then God spoke to her and said, "Why did you laugh?" And she said, "I didn't laugh." He looked at her and said, "You laughed."
Yes.
Now, I'm sure that some of you would not just laugh, you'd probably go into hysterics. But anyway, he makes this promise, and then God tells Abraham he has to get rid of Ishmael, because he said the heir is not going to be Ishmael. And by this time, Ishmael is approaching, probably 10 years or so, several years anyhow. And he's been Abraham's son. And God is saying to him, get rid of him. He's not going to be the heir. He is not going to be the one that inherits what I have for you. And so then God speaks, and by the time we get here to chapter 22, and you have to remember, whoever wrote this book, whoever wrote Genesis, added words to it that probably did not happen at the time. And what I mean by that is, it says sometime later God tested Abraham. Now, that sometimes later indicates that somebody besides Abraham wrote this, right? And that's true of much of the Pentateuch. Somebody else wrote it. But Abraham, he doesn't know this is a test. Okay? Sometimes later, God tested Abraham. Now, we can skip it like a lot of people do and get all the way to Mount Moriah and have him climbing the mountain and enjoying the blessing of the Lord. But I was walking through this a little differently. I thought,